Okay, we're kicking off the first developer call of 2024 with the No Core edition. It's January 10th, 2024. So I've shared the agenda with you guys. I will also share my screen so we can run through the agenda and add any updates that need to be added. But shall we kick it off with what we usually have as the section 1, what to know section? So the idea to share the high-level updates of what's been going on with the No Core team the past 2 weeks. I don't know. Well, we have a new security engineer, Christoph. And maybe this is you, Morgan, if you want to talk about the merging of native lines.
Yeah, so we last week of last year, we finally finished on the 8-month-long endeavor to merge native bindings. So as a spoiler in the last call, not much to say here. We've done whole due celebrations, but just wanted to put this in as work for the past couple of weeks. And together with that, we've also there's I'll hand it off to Guillaume for Gno.dev.
Sorry, I just want to have the academy.
The pull request 1386.
Sorry, I wasn't. Yeah, good. Not as good. I don't have the window. I'm worried. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, it's already merged, and thanks for the feedback of Bertie. I already fixed a lot of bugs on this one. I've started integrated implementing real hot reload, like it will refresh the page and change. Also, it will enable to have an API on Gno.dev to have update to develop other tool around it. And yeah, that's it. I think I got many bugs inside Gno.web, and I still need feedback. So don't hesitate to send me feedback on this, so I can fix all the bugs.
Is this the okay? It's merged. Okay.
Another major news. We are finally live on the docs.gno.land domain, and so we finally have a documentation link to share, and we should be going off with a public social update very soon on our Twitter and so on.
On top of that, if I could just jump in for the docs. The docs are live. They are official. We are working on them still, obviously. So what Michelle is just showing is a relatively large update to the standard library docs. So basically, all of the stuff that you can find in the STD package is going to be documented, as well as some concepts, as in what are coins, what are realms, what is the banker, etc., etc., etc. I'm also looking for reviews on this one, so if anybody wants to jump in, give it a read, please do. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, also thank you to everybody who contributed to the docs, especially the Unblock team, whose developer portal was a huge inspiration for it.
Yeah, actually, will the developer portal still exist, or is that been kind of like taken into the docs?
Yeah, since the domain is up, we'll probably shut it down in the following weeks.
So
on other updates we're planning for the next few weeks. We've been working for the past month. Manfred has been working on a document called Effective Gno. and this comes after the Go equivalent, effective Go. Essentially, it's a sort of large sort of reference document talking about common patterns in GNO, and some crucial differences in how we do programming in GNO as compared to Go. And obviously, we're going to improve and iterate upon this, but it already has a lot of examples. And if you're just getting, if you're jumping in and Go programming, GNO programming, this is a good resource. If you have been doing programming in GNO, please do take a read of this document and provide some comments if you have any. We're also working to improve the way we handle PR reviews. This is something we discussed a few weeks ago, and we still have to decide on for strategies. We're probably going to introduce PR triaging at the level of the core team. So hopefully we can get to reviewing your code a bit faster than we have for the past year. But yeah, we'll be announcing further updates on that as well. And we're also working on having sort of a more fully fledged roadmap where you can actually follow what we're doing. This is what a draft that Manfred posted many months ago. Some things here got outdated, but some things here are sort of a rough idea of still the sort of what needs to be done, like dependency order to get to the mainnet and what to do afterwards. Still, this is by all means not a definite roadmap, and we're working to having something more complete. And yep, I think that's what we have for the high level.
I have a quick question. I was just curious about the portal loop.
I don't know if Albert is there, but basically portal loop is released on a staging domain. People can already check it. It's portal.gnoteam.com, so it's not yet Gno.land, the official domain. And we are still testing it. Right now, we identified a few bugs. For instance, in the last 3 merged PRs, only one of them triggered a redeploy, while we were expected 2 or 3 redeploys. So we definitely need to fix a few things. Albert wants to add a faucet. What else? We are listing bugs that we'll probably fix later. For instance, we are not exporting the timestamp. So technically, each time we deploy the portal loop, all the dates will be updated to the current date, which is not a big drama. It's definitely something we'll do by iterating after making it more public. What else? We don't have enough testing transactions, just because actually it's a testnet that nobody is using. So one of the tasks we want to do to prove that actually portal loop is working enough is to maybe write some kind of monitoring-oriented oracle. So basically an oracle that will try to make a transaction, maybe incrementing a counter every minute or something like this, and check if the update is happening. And by doing this, we can simulate frequent transactions, which is also useful for other things than pure monitoring. But we can also get notifications if the counter is not updating or if the counter is going back in the past. And once we validate this, portal loop can become official. And when I say official, it won't be portal.gno.land, but Gno.land. It will be the main website. The main website won't be a static website anymore, but a blockchain instance, regularly updated with the latest GitHub code changes, and preserving transactions on a best effort basis. So I know Albert is probably off for, I don't remember the reason, but basically he said that as soon as he comes back, he will focus on this point. Definitely we are looking for help, and I think this monitoring oracle, so basically a script or a daemon that will make periodical transactions is definitely a good getting started task for anyone. If you want to start writing clients for Gno, this one is relatively easy to do. If you have, I don't know, someone new in your team, an intern, a junior, or a friend who wants to get started with Gno, this task is very useful and potentially more accessible than any other one. So feel free to ping us if you want to work on this monitoring Oracle. And if you don't, we will just do something so that we can release Portal Loop in the next few weeks. And yeah, once again, if you want to also just give us some try, feel free to go to portal.gnoteam.com and just interact with the chain and give us feedback if there is any problem. So this is a real independent blockchain. And if you scroll down, again, so we are at block 98.111. Block delay is 5 seconds. So technically, the block number multiplied by 5 should be the amount of seconds with the last commit with some margin, because we are checking for new commits every few hours. So let me check right now if it's working or not. Last commit was merged 25 minutes ago, so this one is probably too early. And the previous one 3 hours ago and one yesterday. So I think there is a problem, for instance. The block number should be way smaller. So Albert has an idea. We discussed this weekend about potential sources. And as soon as we fix this point and we are sure that we preserve transactions, Portal Loop will be official.
Okay.
Oh, and an important detail. Portal Loop, once released, so Gno.land will become a special staging network that we encourage people to use if they don't care about preserving block height or maybe timestamp or maybe, basically they have less guarantees than on an official testnet, but they have the advantage of always being synchronized with latest GitHub code. So it will be a staging. I will personally use this staging probably more than any other testnets because I know the constraint. We will try to explain the constraints. But we also plan to work on a testnet 4 after, because testnet 3 is definitely too much deprecated right now. I have two main topics I want to fix before testnet 4. One is about the prefix when we mint native tokens, because right now we can mint GNOTs. We are too much permissionless. And the second one is about namespaces. I would like to introduce namespaces on this testnet because namespaces will definitely create a new friction when people will try to release contracts. And I definitely want to make sure that we have time to update documentation to explain there is a way to publish contract without a namespace, and there is a way to register your namespace if you want to start creating your empire of dApps and libraries. So we release Portal Loop, and then we will focus on testnet 4. But Portal Loop will be a testnet with some requirements.
I think, Jeff, did you have?
Yeah. Is the Portal Loop connected to the GitHub repository in the Realm code, for example, the boards realm?
Yep. The examples folder is applied, and then we try to replay previous transactions, including the previous add packages, including the previous interactions with contracts with the call method, meaning that you should definitely stay GitHub first if you want to make something more official, because GitHub could potentially override what was written in a transaction. And that's actually the main goal. The idea of Portal Loop, we had two ideas. One is to improve the loop itself, so to have more frequent updates, more frequent pull requests, more frequent. So we have to make the experience about using, testing, iterating, forking, writing, etc. And the second one was because actually test 3 was outdated, and actually is always outdated on one of the main packages, AVL, which means that most of the packages today won't be releasable on test 3. And actually, this is the way we recommend people to write contracts right now. And the goal is to say, okay, feel free to use this network with its own constraints, but the big advantage of always being up to date with GitHub, or use another testnet and make sure to take care of the versioning by yourself, or run a local testnet, or use the staging, which is erased every 30 minutes. So yeah, soon we'll have multiple options, and it will be up to you to pick the best one, and we'll try to document as well as best as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other maybe topics that weren't put in the HackMD agenda that the team maybe wants to highlight that's a TLDR for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'll add something here.
Okay.
Yeah, issue 1326. 1326. This is for the virtual machine and Gno.land. I actually wrote it down for section 4. Am I skipping?
There it is.
Yeah, so this is about the way assignment works in the virtual machine. There's something we don't consider, which is causing an issue, which you can replicate in 1326. And we have 2 approaches to solve this, but along the way, it seems like we need to find another solution because of an obscure issue. So we'll be working on fixing assignment. This will also work for saving escaped objects that don't have a parent, like variables you create with new, and persisting those because their references are referenced. The pointers are referenced on a persisted object. So if you have if there are any virtual machine issues that deal with persistence, like the one we discussed at the retreat, maybe it's a good time to add them to my plate because I'm already thinking about it, and this stuff takes like days just to load onto my head. Thank you. Yeah, so if there's any virtual machine issues that are especially related to 1326 or cross 1396, 1326, yeah, and 1398, yeah, with detached parentless objects constructed with new, for example, and persistence, possibly cross-realm persistence, then add them to my project board, and I'll take a look. Thanks.
I will have one, Jay, so I write it and I add it to your board.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so there is some discussion. Is it something that wants to be discussed now around the 1398, or like Dylan?
You want to think about it?
I didn't know if there was anything that needed to be discussed about it, if it was just to signal.
Let's.
Yeah, I'll just say this. This thing is about assignment, and the solution that Dylan was working on was like preserving the object ID when you assign onto a slot. So like when you say like star X is equal to my struct, and you're assigning a structure to the pointer pointed to by X. And in that case, praying for it. Sorry.
Okay, are there any other points on this, or
do we want to get back on track?
Oh, yeah, sorry, it's the object ID. My bad. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, guys. All right, so all right, so yeah, when you assign like a struct to a slot, what happens right now is first we copy the value. So if it was a struct value, we call struct.copy, and it creates a new struct with a new ID. Then and when you try to save this, if you were to try to save it, you would get a new ID because the ID isn't set. But what we need to do is set the ID as the ID of the struct that was there for the assignment, because what we're really doing is not creating a new struct, but replacing the value of the field inside that struct, if that makes sense. So this has to do with the quirk of the way the virtual machine was designed, and because it's constructing a new value every time something is assigned, and now we have to make sure the object ID is preserved in certain cases. Anytime we're assigning to a slot where the receiver variable is a struct or array, So the first solution, the naive solution, I guess, is to just replace the value. So Dylan started just to replace the single object ID, and Dylan worked on PR, and then I think I kind of completed it in mine in 1501. So the tests are all passing, but it doesn't. I don't think it completely solves the problem, because you also have to replace the object IDs of the inner fields for certain embedded structures and arrays. Like if you have an array of array, right, then you also need to make sure all of the elements object IDs are preserved. And this has to do with like nested pointers and the way pointers are represented and persisted in Gno. It's kind of too hard to talk about. This should be written down, so we'll do that, and we'll have more of an update for you. But yeah, keep a track of these 3 issues if you want to keep up with the discussions, which will be happening this week.
Okay. I think then maybe if there is an update, oh yeah, there is on the faucet. Is this you, Morgan, wanting to Gno.land blockchain section 2?
Actually, if Milos could take this, I'll take the one in the section on the Gno VM in general.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a pretty light update for the Gno.land blockchain. And for Tendermint 2, the section is not filled out. Yeah, basically what's planned for the next 2 weeks is we have a PR open that abstracts away the dependencies from GNOME and Gno.land from Tendermint 2. It's part of basically a series of PRs that Gillum has been doing, just to make the Tendermint 2 not have dependencies on the runtime and the underlying the overarching context of the Gno.land blockchain. And we have 1471, which is Dylan's PR on the add user command for TXStars. Basically what this is, I'm not sure why it's not merged yet. Basically what this is within these integration tests that we have, there's a need for you to add keys to the keybase before you actually start, doing your tests, and this kind of functionality enables that, right? Yeah. In terms of other things for Tendermint 2 and the chain, we're finishing up the indexer this week, so it should be ready by Friday, right? Hopefully demoable next week. I know a lot of implementation partners are waiting for that, especially on Block. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The update that we have.
Okay, sorry, I just ended up on the 1471. Okay.
Yeah, there should be a DAO and economics section, but Michael is not here unless he's joined. He hasn't. Nope. So yeah. I'll just quick. Do you want to go over it, or shall I go over it, Michelle? Oh, he's here.
Did he just join? Always there.
Yeah. He just joined. Michael, do you want to
Perfect
take
timing,
on your section?
Yeah, sorry, guys. It was a crazy half hour here. I didn't expect.
Literally perfect timing, though.
Yeah, I heard tokenomics 3 times.
And then you
yeah, instantly. Cool. Well, I don't have the link in front of me, but I can read it from here and remember what I wrote. So yeah. So what's new is break is over. Of course, I decided to mostly study. I'm not sure why I decided to do that, but I did. But I'm kind of happy I did. Now that we're back, though, we're gonna have a bunch of documentation that's slowly coming out here. I have a document that is covering a lot of the governance module tasks available to be worked on by people in Game of Realms. That'll be submitted soon, as well as a document that's essentially covering the governance changes we've made recently, and kind of a concise summary of where everything stands. Any links to include? Yeah, let me get some after this. As of right now, we mostly have the governance module doc, but we should have about 3 or 4 docs total, I'm thinking, on different subjects in different links here, covering all the different topics. We got the agent-based model stuff going still. Game of Life is pretty much entirely done. I might add some extra parameters and stuff to that. This is more of kind of a additional reason to port over some Go packages to Gno and more of an example project, so that can kind of come back and forth from the back burner whenever we need it to. I'd just love to kind of slowly, gradually move more and more of my modeling work over to Go and Gno itself, opposed to Python, at least whenever that makes sense, or at least whenever there's libraries that aren't Python specific. So that'll continue to be a priority here, is porting over any packages. That'll make that a little bit easier on Gno. DAO structure, as we mentioned, is finalized. We'll be going over a week from today, I believe, or a week from yesterday. Next week we'll be going over kind of I think I'd want to start with going over essentially everything that's being covered in the documentation. As I've been going through stuff, I think I have realized that understandably a lot of the systems from Game of Realms are being mixed up with some systems from eventual mainnet Gno, which makes a lot of sense. They've had varying degrees of similarity as we've been working on it. So I think I'm going to start the meeting next week just by kind of blowing through it and fully defining each as it currently stands, just to make sure to clear up any confusion there, and just so we kind of have some official documentation that hopefully prevents that from happening in the future. You know, finalized DAO naming, finalized exactly who's going to have what power, etc. So we can run through that all in a dedicated meeting. I think that would be great. And then the Game of Realms V2 submission scoring systems. This is something John and I, or Devrel and I, are still kind of doing as an additional project, where basically giving Game of Realms a start to finish process for anyone that is submitting to it. The standardized scoring rubric to make it, you know, keep it versatile, but still allow kind of repeatable, as deterministic as possible scoring of all of our Game of Realms submissions. We'll have you know, a handful of scripts that'll be interacting with Manfred's Game of Realms directory on GitHub, and this will essentially act as the prototype for like Game of Realm competitors for like their user profile. So like through all of these scripts, we'll be able to store basic metrics about their contributions. We'll be able to store you know, the evaluation DAO write-ups when we get to that point down the road. At this point, it's just kind of, you know, us as core team judging these submissions that could morph into kind of the first version of evaluation DAO after launch. But for all intents and purposes, Game of Realms is kind of separated in terms of it's us grading that, opposed to any specific DAO and us going through submissions. Yeah, so we should have a fully functioning kind of profile system for that can eventually morph into the user profile system for mainnet users as we go on. And that should kind of allow, in tandem with the effective GNO document that's being worked on, for kind of the largely what the rubric will be based on, and largely what will allow us to keep things as fair as possible in terms of submissions of all different types. It's planned for the next 2 weeks is kind of going along with some of the solutions we're trying to build in the future, and some of the data querying tools that are being worked on to make it as easy as possible to pull up specific data. I'm going to be meeting with Google's AI team on Thursday. I'm sure they're going to try to sell me some solution, but I'm also going to use that as an opportunity to see if we can just kind of hack the API or some of the other offerings here. And they're going to basically go into the, you know, the advantages. They're trying to sell me on the advantages of using that and building a wrapper around their AI, opposed around stuff that I wouldn't necessarily have to pay for. But regardless, I think it's going to be good just to kind of get a couple different ideas in terms of some ways to kind of create some final implementations of stuff we've been talking about for a while. Anything from allowing marketing to quickly query data from specific months, to allowing maybe in the far future certain PRs to be automatically reviewed in some capacity, or have reviews automatically written for certain PRs in some capacity, or the infinite things that we could theoretically do with that. So a lot of what I'm building now is wrappers that allow us to customize existing AI models and build our own UIs and our own kind of parameters on top of it to kind of hack it to our needs here. So we'll see if that's any use here. We'll see if anything comes from it. Again, we're going to keep finishing that documentation. I'm hoping to have 1 or 2 out this week, and then about the same next week. Scoring rubric and guidelines in tandem with effective Gno, which again is how we're going to be grading Game of Realms, and potentially how we'll be evaluating. Eventually, we'll morph into kind of mainnet evaluation, but at this point, just for all intents and purposes, this is for us to grade Game of Realms. On-chain analysis and data scraping. This is a couple different ballparks. We'll talk about next tokenomics meeting, but largely what's going on is Ray and Dylan have some a benchmark set up that they're running all the different opcodes for, all the different possible operations that can be ran on our VM, getting a bunch of data on how long these operations take to run, on you know, kind of a handful of different metrics there, and then I'll be able to plug in our final gas system and the resulting fee system from that. And based on all of their benchmark data and all of those operations, we'll be able to start running some gas and fee simulations here, so that we can fine tune all of that here finally, and hopefully start building a gas estimation system for users, and just some kind of housekeeping for some stuff we'll need for mainnet. But I feel like yeah, we're in a pretty good place with what we're going to be building there. At this point, it's just you know, gathering data and using that to make sure that everything we're building here is doesn't, you know, catch us off guard, or there's nothing that we're missing or need to add as part of it, which we'll be able to see once we run simulations. Also, we have a grant proposal that we're discussing this week with a DAO architect, Phil, potentially about doing a kind of academic research paper on the contribution work that we've done so far, you know, ranging all the way from reputation systems like Stack Overflow to classification systems that you'll see in gaming sometimes, and everything in between. So that seems like a really exciting idea. He seems like a good guy, so we're going to be meeting and going over some plans there, and potentially putting together a bit of a plan to turn everything into an academic paper eventually. So, and yeah, that is it.
Yeah, I was just putting in maybe the links. That was just a suggestion, but also on the VM benchmark data and the gas and fee systems, maybe like, will that be something in 2 weeks we could show on the call?
Yeah, potentially. If not 2 weeks from now, then maybe like a month from now. It kind of all depends on you know, essentially whenever we're able to get as much data as we need, and then from there, basically, you know, there's a handful of different simulations we can run with it, and a handful of different ways that we can set up gas. I think we can definitely run over something in 2 weeks. Like, we can definitely run over like how I have it set up to be tested. Maybe if we don't quite have enough data to do final sim runs, then I can create some synthetic data to at least go through the process, just for something a little bit more visual. So yeah, no, I think that would be a great idea. There's potentially a couple others in that ballpark too that we'd be able to pull up, like a couple other, whether it's like the Game of Realms submission process, where we can go through the scripts and what they accomplish, and or whatever else. But yeah, we'll shoot to show that next time. I like that idea.
Okay. Thank you. We've got section 4. Morgan, or maybe Ray?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. I'll first start off with the external contributions. So thanks to June from Unblock, we added support for the rest of the octal syntaxes, so the ones that don't have a O in them to separate them. And thanks to Dragos, we extended the GRC 721 interface so that now supports setting a token URI, which are both very welcome contributions. So thank you both. As for the core team work, Dylan has been doing an amazing job at fixing many bugs. We got many of them merged the past few weeks. Mostly these were headaches that I'd found while developing Gno.js, and we have a bunch of issues that are now closed. And I think, yeah. Anyway, and aside from that, what else? And just today, we merged a PR from Mark from the core team, which fixes a pen in some situations, whereby if you for instance mixed having like a constant number and an integer variable, the variable would not be converted, and the code would panic when it got to that point. And that actually fixes a whole bunch of bugs together. And we found some incorrect code also in the standard libraries as well. And it removes, like, it accidentally also removes some things like being able to convert nil to a string. So now you can only convert nil to the appropriate types. As for the planned work for the next few weeks, I'll personally be continuing the overall project for native bindings by adding the string conversion package, which you may think is not related, but it actually is, because it allows us to completely remove the old packet injection system for a variety of reasons. And I'm having a bit of trouble with doing that, and I'm finding new VM bugs. But yeah, I'll keep you posted. And then we are having a discussion that was started by Leon about what to do with the STD package. So that's 1475. This one, there's a few proposals on the issue on what to do about it. Essentially, like, some of the ideas are about renaming it to OS or renaming it to chain. I'm personally in favor of doing something like what is done with Go with the IO and OS package, and have a chain package and a runtime package, one which works with basic blockchain data types, and one which works with the runtime GNOVM functions. But anyway, please take a look at that issue. And
the purpose of STD was originally to hold common data types. So if we can split it into one that's about common data types, and another about functions, that sounds reasonable. But okay, yeah, we can comment there.
Yeah, would you be alright, like, making the data types on a package like named like chain or something, or blockchain or BC or whatever?
Chain comment. Why not leave that as STD? Is STD?
Because to me personally, STD sounds very generic. That's
oh yeah. Okay.
Like, standard what, or is it sexually transmissible disease, right?
True. Yeah.
And on top of that, we already, like, there's a distinction between also standard libraries in general that we have as like for example the strconf package or encoding binary or whatever. Like, all of those packages are standard libraries already. So when you try to discuss them and when you try to document them, it's sometimes vague on what you're thinking about. So that was one of the reasons that we started this discussion as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. Anyway, I'll finish off with the
So there's
with all the other.
I think it's 1326, 1398, and 1501 that Jay was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's one by Jay. I think Jay talked about this earlier, right?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. About assignment to the reference pointer values. So yeah, that's what we'll be working on the VM. If anyone from the core team wants to add on top of this, anything that might not be in here, please feel free. Otherwise, we can go on to the Q&A.
Anyone? No? Okay, and Tenement 2, nothing. Okay. I'm going to stop screen sharing. Are there any questions from, I guess from anyone, but also like ecosystem teams? I don't know if Varmeta is here.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff.
Hi, I'm going to ask a stupid question. When we use the blockchain, we have the remote address and port number. We also have to give the chain ID. What does the chain ID do for us, and is it really necessary?
Yeah, the chain ID serves two purposes. One is to distinguish between different projects, like Osmosis versus, although they have their own software, theoretically, they could just use their own. And then also to distinguish between versions. So when there's a chain upgrade, a hard fork, the convention's been to just change the chain ID number. So Cosmos Hub 4 will become Cosmos Hub 5. Yeah, I think that makes
with the same port number.
Oh, no.
So if you have to give a different port, then why bother with the chain ID?
I mean, it's about what's written in a transaction data, right? Because the chain ID is encoded into the transaction, and so essentially says, okay, this transaction is meant for the Gno.land chain instead of being for the Github chain, right?
But you send the transaction to the right place. Is there a big bucket with transactions mixed together with different chain IDs?
You send the transaction to a node, which will be potentially an IP address. This is actually not common that test3 is a single node. So right now you have test3 as a name and test3 as the host name. In practice, we potentially equal test3 chain ID for the node, which will be an IP address or I don't know, gno.berti.tech.
Without any port.
Yeah, or with a port, just the chain ID. It's basically like, so you have this with domain name because you have in a single domain name, you have the TLS, you have the destination, and you have the brand you are calling. But here we have different things. And by being explicit here, you can be sure that the transaction will be applied only if you target the good blockchain. Whatever the reason is for you to not target the good one because you change your name.
Yeah. When you say port, you're talking about IP port?
Yeah, I mean, every time I use I have to give a IP and a port number.
Yeah. Okay. But the data. Okay. So that would make sense in a normal traditional server setting where you send information to the server, and so the right server has it. So why do you need a chain ID if the port's going to be different? But we're not in the traditional server setting. We're in a blockchain setting. All the data is stored in all the nodes, and if there was no chain ID, anyone could take your transaction for one chain and just copy it, give it to another node, and say, "Oh, this is for Bob on a different chain," and the chain wouldn't know unless there was a chain ID in every transaction you sign somehow, right?
Are chain IDs controlled? How come the other guy can't just set up his server with the same chain ID?
Right. So they can set up a chain with the same chain ID, spoof your chain. Anyone can run a chain and claim they're Cosmos 4, but it wouldn't really matter what happens there if it isn't, because no one would care.
Okay. It's just it's a stumbling block. Each of us at Birdie have spent a few minutes trying to figure out why it doesn't work, and it's because we copy pasted the wrong chain ID. But
Okay.
if it's necessary for security purposes,
Yeah,
then
it is necessary for security purposes. I feel like something can be improved where maybe in the signature, the chain ID is included or something. Is it already included in the signature?
The signature is forged thanks to this, yes.
Is it implicit or explicit in the signature?
Explicit. The signature match chain ID, your name, your account number, your sequence number, and chain ID.
Right. But the sequence number is implicit. It is not written in the transaction, right? So that's annoying, isn't it?
No, it's used by the signature.
It is used by the signature, but it is used implicitly. It is not written down in the signature itself.
I'm not sure it's written down.
It is not. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. So the sequence number isn't written down. So like when a transaction fails, it's like not clear why it failed, and you don't even know what sequence it was signed with. So it can be very difficult for debugging. So I know that at least the sequence number, I think, should just be at least optionally written down in the signature for debugging purposes. Maybe the same should be done for chain ID. If it isn't, hold on, let me take a look.
So basically, only account number is mandatory. But if we don't have sequence numbers, there is a question about replaying a transaction. I need to switch to another call, but this is definitely a good discussion. We definitely expect to have a solution, especially for asynchronous transactions, especially if we want to have something one day like Lightning Network with Edge Network with messages that can be potentially transferred to another peer who will be the relay to post eventually later. And then we need a solution to basically not be limited with sequence number, but also be protected against replay attacks.
Okay. Yeah. Just a naive question, which I'm sure you'll get many times. Hopefully it'll show up in one of the FAQ.
Okay.
The sequence number, account number, chain ID are they're implicit.
Well, when I've been using it, you every time you send a transaction, you first have to do one round trip and ask the chain, what's my sequence number?
Yeah, you need it in order to sign, but it is not included explicitly in the signed transaction.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to take up too much time.
We're at the time.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to the biggest question of what do we do about the meme competition that we would like to run, or that I'm hoping we can run to make this call end on a fun note. But we can tackle that next week. Maybe people can come with ideas. Wait, sorry?
I say Milos just wins by default due to his consistent channel contributions, but it'll be a tough contest.
Those are my favorites, but maybe people can up the game so Milos has some competition. So
yeah, I mean, let's just comment next week. Like if you think of something funny, make a meme on it.
And that doesn't require explanation.
With the memes at the end of the call. Yeah, that goes for you, core contributors, because next week's on you. And a couple weeks we'll try to come up with ones from from the core team.
How about everybody has to draw an unexpected unreal object?
Sorry. Well, more jokes from Jeff. That's also an option. But anyway, I know we're at time, so thank you all, and we can reconvene with the competition then next week. So bring your game. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.